Hello, welcome to Making Better Bites podcast. I am your host, Adrienne, and I am a registered dietitian who focuses on women's health, hormones, and nutrition. So, today I wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on the trend of cycle syncing. So, if you haven't heard of cycle syncing, it is where people use their menstrual cycle and the different phases that they are in to guide them on specific exercises, activities, social settings, and foods that they are going to be eating at that time. And the idea is that you should live based on your menstrual cycle, and that it's such a big part of fluctuations in our personalities and our moods, in what nutrients we need, and in um, just overall our energy and well-being as a female. So my thoughts on this, like, I really want to be open and honest. I'm not doing notes again today because I just want to share from my heart and just like ideas that I have about it. I don't know, that sounds dramatic, but I get frustrated sometimes when I see stuff about cycle syncing. I am open to the concept and I think there's some really great things out there, but I just want to kind of debunk a little bit of the information that's being shared, just based on like the information versus how I see things as a registered dietitian and looking into the research and why I recommend or don't recommend things that I do in my approach to nutrition and wellness. So I wanted to talk about that today. And before I do that, I just want to give a disclaimer that this is not intended to be any kind of medical advice. I am not being prescriptive or telling you this is what you have to do or not have to do. And yeah, so just take this as general information. Make sure you're always working with your trusted personal professional healthcare providers before proceeding with any major changes in your life, because they know you and your health history and things that you need the best. So, with all of that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into discussing cycle syncing, kind of my thoughts on it, where I stand on it as a practitioner, what, and kind of like my approach to things versus how I view cycle syncing. So, first of all, I know that cycle syncing has worked for people. There has been success, and I don't negate that whatsoever. That's totally possible, and it makes sense. I just know that cycle syncing isn't for everyone, especially as a long term lifestyle, and it doesn't fit for everyone. So if you do it and you've had success and you enjoy it, please continue if that's what makes you happy. As always, like, I don't want to tell someone they can't do something, and that's not the purpose. But I just want to give some information so we can be on the same page. Or for people who don't like something that's that regimented, kind of like myself, I just wouldn't be successful or thrive in that kind of routine of doing everything by my menstrual cycle. I personally spend a lot of time thinking about my menstrual cycle, just with all of the health things that I've had going on, all of the complications over the last few years that I've dealt with the endometriosis and the polyps, and um, I guess that's kind of it. Cysts, whatever. Just all of those kind of things. I spend a lot of time thinking and talking about my menstrual cycle and discussing it with providers, discussing it with my husband, thinking about it for myself, thinking about how I can use those experiences to further the education that I share and the information that I put out there into the world, and kind of like my stance on all of that, and like what I read about and the research that I look into. It's all about the menstrual cycle. So I find it to be fascinating, and I know that it's so important for a female, for our health, and experiencing that. And even like if I had to take it a step further and completely live by my menstrual cycle, by rules of following my menstrual cycle, it would just be too much for me. I would get very overwhelmed, and I know it's not something that I could stick by. Something maybe to get you started, sure. Maybe to help develop some new habits, possibly, but not something that I could do for a significant period of time, because I would get really sick of thinking about my menstrual cycle and having to make all of my decisions on what I'm doing surrounding it. So that's just me. I've had that experience with like dietary things in the past, with nutrition things in the past for myself. And I just know for me, I would get really tired of focusing on it and feeling like these are things I had to do, because as much as I like guidance and information and applying that to my life, I don't like rules and feeling like I have to follow something just because someone else told me to. So if you are in the same boat and you don't like the rules and you don't like being regimented and you're not looking for another diet, then I think that my approach to nutrition and health and wellness surrounding the cycle might be a little bit more suited for you as well. Um, because everybody has different preferences, right? And we're all looking forward to get different things out of it. So what works for one person might not work for another in their lifestyle, and that's totally fine. So the way cycle syncing works is that honestly, it's a little bit arbitrary, a little bit. When you look up like cycle syncing, there's not a lot of science or evidence behind it to support the use of cycle syncing and that it's vital or necessary for a female to be able to function and to have a healthy menstrual cycle. I mean, I know I'm just one person, but I don't follow cycle syncing in any way. And I have taken my menstrual cycle and my period from being miserable and being unhealthy and unbalanced, and having lots of abnormalities, to being balanced and healthy levels of in my blood work with my hormones, healthy periods, healthy luteal phases, all of those kind of things, without following any kind of cycle syncing, and just living a nutritious life, living a balanced life, and listening to my body when I need to, for rest, for activities, and all of those sort of things. So I know a lot of the ideas come from breaking down in that your period is a time where you need to have warming foods. You need to focus on like slow, gentle movements and like gentle just yoga and stretching and light walking. And that's supposed to be the extent of your exercise during that period of time. It's also then goes to your follicular phase, and you're supposed to be supporting your body in egg development and eating for egg production specifically in that phase. And there's, people with ideas on specific drinks you should be having and specific foods that you have to incorporate in that window. And then also ovulation. There's some ideas around that, and that it's the time for you to connect with your partner the most and like different things like that. And you have more energy at that time. So maybe doing more like HIIT and strength training workouts and things like that during that window. And then with your luteal phase following ovulation, that your energy begins to drop. Your nutrition again changes. I think it's maybe a little bit higher in calories, because I know you can be hungrier, especially leading up to your period and those kind of things. So there's just different things that they recommend specifically at different windows that you should be eating and doing, like I said. And like obviously I don't know every detail off the top of my head of how they follow it. So if it's something you're interested in, obviously that's something you could seek information out. There's lots of health coaches and nutritionists and just women in general who have decided that they want to teach others how to participate in cycle syncing. So if you want if you want to find that information, you can find it on every social media platform. Google it and it'll come up on like blogs and things like that of people's experiences with it and kind of the rules and guidelines around it. So that's kind of just a general idea. But the problem with this is, one, it relies on someone having to know exactly what phase they're in order to feel successful. And two, it gives you the idea. I think it's too much of feeling like a diet with regimented rules that you specifically have to follow, because of like the idea that you have to eat these foods in these time frames, or you have to do these exercises in these windows, or like this is what you need to focus on at this time, because that just starts to feel very it just feels like we're creeping back into like diet culture to me, especially because there's nothing specifically scientifically backing up that this is something that you have to do in order to reach like peak wellness and health and balance of hormones. So, yeah, just having all of those rules and guidelines of where you have to be and what you have to follow feels like a lot. And so, with my approach to nutrition and women's health and understanding the menstrual cycle, is that there might be times, sure, during your period where you don't have the energy to be working out as hard, or you don't have a desire to go to the gym and do the same things that you might have when you're not on your period. But that doesn't mean that you can't do those things during that time frame. Like I have a pretty set routine of what I do on Monday, Wednesday, Friday versus Tuesday, Thursday, and what my exercise looks like on those days. But I'm not so set in stone that if I wake up one day feeling more tired, or I just need a break, some rest, I don't want to go to the gym, or just something in life comes up, because that happens, of course. I don't feel like I have to push myself to then do that thing, because I listen to myself and my own needs and things that I want to do and have a desire for, and then I fulfill that, right? It's not about what someone else is telling me, because you are going to know your body best. And I think with cycle syncing, people tell you, like, of course, like you can bend the rules or make them work for your own lifestyle, which is true, especially since it's not required. So sure, you don't have to follow it, but at the core of what's behind it is, taking certain supplements and eating certain foods. And in order to balance your hormones, you're going to do these things and live this lifestyle. So I don't like the idea that if you are someone who feels empowered by lifting weights and going to the gym and participating in these exercises, then during your period, you wouldn't feel like you could do those sort of things, because you're supposed to be resting and just stretching and going on light walks and those sort of things. If that's how you feel during your period and you need time to rest and recuperate, of course, please do that. But you shouldn't feel like you have to, because you're following this like guideline pocketbook of information. So that's kind of my thoughts on the exercise. And then the same thing goes for the nutrition. When it comes to nutrition, you can eat those foods at any given time throughout your menstrual cycle, and they are going to be beneficial for you and for your body. So while you might not be your body might not be focusing on developing your eggs and your follicle growth as heavily in your luteal phase when you're getting ready to have your period, things kind of start to trail off. That doesn't mean that healthy fats and omega-3s and those kind of things aren't going to still help your egg health if you're eating them at a different time. So your body has a way of storing nutrients, and a lot of the nutrients overlap across foods. So there's going to be benefits to eating those foods at any given time, because the nutrients are still there, and there's a variety of other nutrients. So like if someone says you need to focus on eating salmon when you are leading up to ovulation, because it's full of healthy fats, and those healthy fats help make up your egg's structure. And yeah, that's it. They help make up your egg structure, and you're getting ready to ovulate, and your body is developing these eggs. So it's really good to have the salmon during that time. Well, that doesn't take away from the fact that it's also really great to have salmon 3 days before your period, because salmon has healthy fats that decrease your inflammation as well. And there's a lot of inflammation that can be going on, prostaglandins releasing, and pain associated with your period and cramps that are coming just around the corner, right? So those omega-3 fatty acids, while they make up the structure of your of your egg, they also help to reduce inflammation. But maybe they're saying like a couple days before your period, you need to be focusing on like berries, because they have a lot of fiber and antioxidants. Antioxidants, of course, help to decrease inflammation as well. Having healthy fiber helps to lower your estrogen levels and binds to those things that your body wants to get rid of that you have excess of. So they might say, like, oh, leading up to your period, eat a lot of berries, which I don't know if that's something that they say, but I'm just sharing. They might say that, but like those berries and that fiber are also really beneficial during your follicular phase because um, the fiber is going to help you to have balanced blood sugar levels. And so, balancing out your blood sugar while you are going through your follicular phase and growing your eggs is really important because balanced blood sugar is important for healthy egg development. So, it kind of manipulates the information and it makes it seem as though foods only have one purpose or they only have one nutrient that they could provide or one benefit that they could provide, but really they have endless amounts of benefits. And those nutrients could be different that benefit you at different times, but they also might be the same and they might be benefiting you for different reasons. So there's a lot of overlap. And I think it isolates people to feel like they have to eat these specific types of foods, whether they like those foods or not, or that they have to completely avoid foods that they do really enjoy and bring them a lot of happiness because it's not the right window for it, right? So it's really important that you allow yourself to listen to your body and to enjoy your meals and to intake a variety of foods at all times in your cycle because that's going to reduce your stress, that you're not worrying about what you're eating and what you're doing and what your social calendar looks like. And it's going to also help you to get a variety of nutrients in a way that makes you happy and will work long term for your lifestyle because it's sustainable. It's foods that you like to eat. And so there's no stress or pressure to be consuming them at any given time. So I think that's one of the biggest downfalls again, because it's back to the idea of diet culture and following a diet and being regimented on a list of rules that are associated now with our menstrual cycle, which understanding your menstrual cycle and knowing the phases that you're in and being in tune with your body and aware of what's going on in your body is extremely sacred and important and can be really empowering for women to learn that part of their lives and to find an understanding at any age for what's going on in their bodies. And I know so many of us didn't learn it when we were younger and are now in our 20s and 30s and learning about our menstrual cycles and why we are experiencing these different things at different phases and what they all mean. And so to boil that down to then a lifestyle or a diet or a workout routine that you have to follow takes away from the specialness, in my opinion, and takes away from how natural it all is and how you can naturally listen to your body and understand what you might be needing at that time. And sure, it might be true that you have higher amounts of energy at certain times, or maybe you can lift a little more weight at certain times in your cycle. But that doesn't negate from the fact that it's okay if you can't do those things to the intensity that you normally can at other points in your cycle if you still want to participate in them or if you still want to consume them. It's perfectly fine and healthy and normal. I enjoy listening to my body and understanding why some days I might have more energy or less. But really and truly, in a healthy, balanced menstrual cycle, you're not going to have major mood or energy or dietary fluctuations. You might see some small things going on once things are balanced and even and you're feeling well and healthy. You might notice some small things from being in tune with your body and understanding your body. Of course, your sex drive is going to be higher or closer to the time of ovulation. Of course, your energy might be a little bit more down when you're on your period, especially if you're experiencing some menstrual cramps or a little bit of pain and fatigue. And of course, like maybe leading up to your period, you have a little bit more cravings because your metabolic need changes and you might need a couple hundred extra calories in a day, but it's not going to be so extreme that you are drastically affected and you're having major ups and downs. If you're really balanced and feeling well and living life and having a nutritious, balanced lifestyle. So it's you will notice those things more because you are in tune with yourself, but they're not going to be major or life affecting in the way that some people, or in the way that you might think it is. Because if you're starting from a bad place and you have an unhealthy menstrual cycle, or you're just coming off of your hormonal birth control for the first time in years, um, or if you suffer with something like PCOS or endometriosis, all of these things that are so difficult for women and can be really painful and life altering, you think that your cycle has to be miserable and you have really big fluctuations because that's what you're used to. That's what I was used to. And I thought, oh, yeah, periods suck. So, of course, I have cramps and pain. But that's not true. That's not the norm. And it shouldn't affect you so deeply. It shouldn't affect your day-to-day life in any extreme way. So you might think that that's how it still should be if you suffer from these things, but I promise that with a balanced, nutritious lifestyle and understanding your body, gaining a connection to what's going on inside of you, and focusing on your nutrition and your wellness, and taking that to heart, and really what you should be doing for yourself, and putting your own well-being first, and finding what works for you and what works and you can incorporate into your lifestyle, is going to show you how much better you can feel in the long run, and how much you shouldn't have those major fluctuations, and have all of that pain and life altering effects. So there are things that you can do. And I truly did not believe that that was possible. People talk about like that your period shouldn't affect you. They talk about your menstrual cycles shouldn't affect your life drastically. There shouldn't be changes in your day to day, or like anxiety, feelings of depression, experiencing all of those kinds of things. They tell you that, but I'm like, I used to think there's no way that's possible. Like, it is just miserable. And that's part of being a woman, that's what people say. But by making so many small bite-sized changes to my habits, and focusing and putting my health first, and taking it seriously and being consistent, I have found that it's really should not be that extreme. And I'm so much happier for it. I feel so much more balanced. I can do anything that I want any day of any time. I don't have to take a bunch of medication when I'm on my period for really bad menstrual cramps. I mean, sure, there may be a day during my period where I take like 2 Advil, like once, maybe twice, maybe. And that's more of just like, oh, this is inconvenient. Like, I'm going to take some medicine because it can make it 100% go away. But not because I'm doubled over in bed, sobbing in pain, having massive blood clots that are passing that I literally can't keep up with, even with a large menstrual cup. Like, these were my reality just a few years ago. So I promise that it actually is possible, and you really can make it happen for yourself, by advocating for your health, taking care of yourself, putting your health first, your nutrition first, your wellness first, speaking with your doctors, being open and honest about everything that's going on, and, keeping track of your signs and your symptoms and your menstrual cycle, documenting all of these things, all of your pain, everything that you're experiencing, taking it to your providers, and finding healthcare providers that you can trust, that are going to work with you and work for you to get to the end goal of you feeling better. And it's not always going to be 100% perfect, but you have to keep putting yourself and your health and wellness first, and being an advocate for yourself and being consistent in those ways. Again, it's not going to be easy necessarily, and it's not always going to work the first go around, but it can happen. And I am here to support you and to give you all the information that you want, and to guide you along the way. I've had a lot of experience. I've done a lot of reading of relevant research of other people's experiences. I have a lot of experience myself, and with talking with other women around me and their experiences with their menstrual cycles. So I want to do that for you, and these are the ways that I have made it happen. So if all of that sounds good and beneficial and happy for you, I'm very excited for you to be here, and I'm really grateful that you are trusting me with your information that you want to consume. That being said, if you want to keep up with all of the information and everything that I've been sharing, I do the podcast every week on Tuesday. If this is your first time listening, or if you listened a few other times, but you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the follow button so you can be notified and I stay relevant on your feed wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, I have a newsletter that I will link in the description box. I send out every Sunday completely free, and I talk about different nutrients and lifestyle changes, how they affect your cycle, and what you can do to improve things. And that goes out, like I said, every Sunday, linked in my description box. I have a program coming out soon on habits that you can begin with to kind of kickstart your cycle. So I know I'm looking at like how I can help over a 3-cycle period, just different habits that you can begin incorporating and hopefully be consistent with and start noticing some changes. So if you're someone who's stuck and not knowing where to start, be sure that you come find me on Instagram because that's usually where things first get announced. So like I said, all of those things are linked below. Please check out the description box if you want any other information. I'm sure hopefully you find it beneficial. And I think that's it. That's all I have for today. I've really enjoyed this discussion on cycle syncing and the benefits of the changes that you can make in order to support your menstrual cycle, and how the nutrition and activities and habits all play into that. So I really hope that this has helped you out. I'm so glad for you to be here, and I hope that this has helped you to make better bites. Have a great week.